Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson. Motherhood is both amazing and difficult at the same time. The Passport Mommy, Michelle Jerson, is here to share in your journey.
It's amazing. It really is, just watching them grow and see how much change and how much they learn just without the filters around them.
Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome to the show. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy, and I'm excited because this week is the Toy Fair in New York City at the Javits Center, and I am headed there, and I look forward to bringing you interviews on next week's show from all of the latest and hottest toys that are out on the market. But this week, I wanted to talk travel with you because this is Passport Mommy, and I am always excited to find new places around the country because this show does air around the country. And so you might be living in New York City and don't know anything about Montana or a beautiful, wonderful ranch in Montana, and it's a place that you might need to visit, or maybe you live closer to Montana and this is a place that you're looking to check out. Maybe you're looking to make your spring break plans. So right now I have with me on the line Chase Averill. He is with the Flathead Lake Lodge located in Big Fork, Montana. Hi, Chase. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. So tell me a little bit about the history of Flathead Lake Lodge and when you took it over.
Yeah, so Flathead Lake Lodge, we're third generation. So I've been back running the ranch about 5 years now, and my grandfather started the ranch in 1945. He was a shuttle pilot in World War II, and came back and found the property. And there's two beautiful historic lodges that were built in the 30s right on the lake that had sat vacant during the Great Depression, and kind of the property became overgrown, and he came back from the war and needed something to do and kind of hatched this idea and started the ranch. And so it started more as a supper club and hunting, outfitting property. This was really pretty rural country back then, and slowly evolved into the guest ranch that it is today. So we've got lots of fun over the years, lots of wild stories and good memories, and it's a place now where we're lucky to have lots of guests that come back for years and years and generations. And, I'm third generation. So the cool part is, now kids my age are starting to bring their kids back to the ranch. And so, it's kind of a timeless place, which is fun.
Yeah. And I love ranches, and I love those that are owned by families and that have been in the family for so many years, because I feel like when you go, it's more than just the activities that you're doing there. You feel like you're home. Do you have a lot of repeat guests who come over and over again?
Yep. Yeah. We, about 60% of the guests are repeat, and I think, that's changed a little bit over the years. I think as the travel industry's changed and, information and destination awareness is so readily available that, people want to get out and try new things. So we're seeing guests come, every other year, every couple years, as opposed to, back in the day, families would come for 35 straight years and stuff like
right.
that. And, so that's changed a little bit, but it's definitely the home environment. We host 120 guests at a time. So we're one of the bigger ranches out there. But it is our home. It's where we all grew up, and, we want our staff to feel like it's home, and we just have 120 guests in our home every week.
Wow, that's great. And so for those who aren't maybe so familiar with the area, tell me a little bit about Flathead Lake and about Montana in general, where you're located.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky. So this part of the world's called the Crown of the Continent. So we're about 35 miles from Glacier National Park, kind of in the northwest part of Montana, and it's one of the most intact ecosystems in the lower 48. And so it's tons of nature and unspoiled beauty, and Flathead Lake is spectacular. It's about 30 miles long. At its widest point, it's roughly 15 miles wide. Right in front of the ranch here, it's 9 miles wide. So it's a huge lake, and we definitely take advantage of that and play on the lake a lot. So kind of our MO is we play at the barn and ride horses in the morning, and then we spend the afternoons lounging by the lake and sailing and boating and swimming and that sort of stuff.
That sounds like so much fun. Now, as far as the horseback riding, what age range is it for? Do you have little pony rides for toddlers, or what kind of instruction is there?
Sure. Yeah. So it's a very, our riding program is, guests stay for a week. So it's Sunday to Sunday. And so you have a great length of time to build relationships and build trust with the guest. And they have the time to, get to know the horses and their confidence level. So we do everything from pony rides for the little kiddos to a lot of lessons and development for other riders. And then from 6 on up, you can get out and ride as much or as you'd like. And we'll, we do everything from hot breakfast rides to, half day, 4 or 5 hour, really adventure driven kind of advanced rides that cover a lot of miles, and kind of everything in between.
Right. And so is the horseback riding included in the price of your stay, or is that an extra charge?
Nope, it is. So we're all inclusive. So,
okay.
And that's part of the beauty of it is everything's included. So it's an awesome spot for families because there's an activity for everyone. There's sailing and wakeboarding and wake surfing and mountain biking and hiking and yoga and sporting clays and horseback riding. And, there's just almost a never-ending list of activities to do, children's programs, teen programs, and it's basically a big choose-your-own-adventure. It's all included, and we definitely wear the kids out, that's for sure.
That's great. So now if I'm coming and I have 2 little ones, is there a kids club where we can drop the kids off? I know you mentioned activities for the kids. Is there a place that we can leave them for a little while?
Yep. So there's a whole kids program that runs a couple times throughout every day, and they'll take the kiddos and they'll do all sorts of fun things, both inside, outside. They'll go on different adventures around the ranch, depending on the ages, and then some of it's based around meals also. So all the meals are served family style. The goal of the ranch is you have a week together, and really we want people to, get to know each other and build these relationships, and the kids to make friends, and that's part of the beauty of it is, especially nowadays with social media and technology, these kids can make friends here and they stay in touch all year long until they come back in a year or two, which is really cool to see. So around meals, the kids will, at dinner, the kids will go off with the kids program coordinators and go have fun while mom and dad can sit and have a nice adult dinner and get a little adult time. And so there's all sorts of ways to break it up throughout the day.
That's great, because I know adult time is really, really hard to find right now in my world. Yeah. And so to know that if I'm going away, because they say it's not really a vacation anymore, it's more of a trip and it's a lot of work when you're traveling with young ones, but to know that there is such a great team available to look after your little ones so that you can enjoy some time is wonderful.
Yeah. I have a 3 and a 5-year-old, so we joke that it's a relocation. It's not a vacation. So
exactly, 100%. People say to me, they're like, "I can't believe you're going to travel with your kids. It must be so much work." And I think, yes, it is. But you know what? I'd rather take on all that work in a nicer or a different location and exploring something new than sitting around here. Right? It's the same amount of work.
Yeah, and that's what kids are really the ones that. There's a cool thing that happens here at the ranch that I don't think when my grandfather started it was, I don't know if it was intentional, but, now that I have kids, it's become really important to me is just the experience the kids have here, the freedom they experience, they don't, I grew up with a lot of freedom living in this type of environment, but most kids don't experience that nowadays. And so for them to spend a week here at the ranch, and even something as simple as being able to have a bicycle for the week and ride wherever they want around the ranch and know that, mom and dad are looking after them, but also, our 100 employees are all keeping tabs on them. It's a very safe environment that, mom and dad feel comfortable in. And these kids get to experience a sense of freedom where, by Tuesday, Wednesday, they're just telling mom and dad, hey, I'm going on the 10 o'clock kids ride with my friends I just met. I'll see you at lunch.
That's great. And we're talking with Chase Averill. Oh, wait, I do want to continue this because we have to wrap up this segment, but I love that. And I want to hear more about that and about, what the kids do, how they become independent and all the activities that they can do there. We're speaking with Chase Averill from the Flathead Lake Lodge in Big Fork, Montana. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
We're speaking with Chase Averill. He is the third generation of the Averill family and the Flathead Lake Lodge's general manager located in Big Fork, Montana. Chase, thank you so much for being here. Before the break, we were talking about how wonderful the ranch is for kids and how there's so many activities. And you said this, a few days in, they're saying, Mom, Dad, I'm going here with my new friends. And the wonderful staff always has an eye on them, and there's so many activities. So tell me a little bit more about that and the activities.
Yeah, I think that's, now that I have kids, that's the neatest part about the place is to watch the transformations happen in these kids over the course of a week as they just kind of gain confidence and independence and build friendships and relationships with the other kids here. And and it happens in a really natural way. And then so the byproduct of that is then the parents start to see it in their kids and start to, some of their relationships change. And this is a very, like you said, it's a very home type place. And we're welcoming these guests to our home, and it can catch people off guard at times because, we have guests from all, demographics, and it's not a super cheap place to come by any means. So, but you're treated like the person you are when you're here. There's no, hello, Mr. CEO or that sort of stuff. It's hello, John. And so these kids start to gain confidence, and their parents are being interacted with like normal parents, I guess you could say. And so it's really cool to see the family kind of come together and the kids gain confidence. And I think that's really important in today's world with kids. And that's, the most special part of it. Our whole goal is to build relationships through, authentic activities and recreation. And it's cool to see it happen every week. It's part of what makes it special and why, we've been honored to do it for 75 years.
Yeah. And you were telling me, because you've been doing this for 75 years and children are so important to you, you have something really neat going on. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So for 75 years, we wanted to figure out, how do we give back? We don't take ourselves very seriously. We try to have a lot of fun doing it. And so we came up with the idea for what we're calling a Week of Hope. And the goal is we're giving the very first week of the season away to critically ill children and their families. So we've partnered with an organization called Hope Kids out of Minneapolis. who has chapters all over the country. And so we've selected 17 families over the winter who are going to come to the lodge with their families and hopefully give them both a break from their real life that they really need, and give them just, a week of hope, but also back to that relationship side, give the siblings and the other kids and the parents the ability to make these relationships and friendships, and provide a week where they can step away from it, but also build some coping relationships that helps everyone out. And our goal is just to give it back to the kids that love this place so much, and it's going to be a pretty special week to start the year off with.
Oh, that's amazing. And so if somebody wants to get involved or apply to come to this week, how do they do that?
It's on the website. So the website is flatheadlakelodge.com, and there's all the information about the Week of Hope and all the other fun things we're up to. But it's going to be a great start to the season.
Absolutely. So when would you recommend people come by? When is a good time to travel to the lodge?
So our core family season, when we do the all-inclusive 7-night packages, is essentially June, July, and August. Okay. And those, you got to be on it. They kind of sell out by fall of the year before. Wow. And then we do some really fun packages in the spring and the fall. We're doing a mountain bike retreat. We're doing an unplugged retreat where we're going to shut down the Wi-Fi and really kind of limit the device usage and kind of go old school a little bit. We're doing a women's cowgirl weekend. So we do some fun, and those are shorter stays. Those are 3 and 4 night stuff. So, those are in the spring and the fall. September is a beautiful month here. So we take advantage of that once the kids are back in school, to do a little bit more adult focused stuff.
Yeah. And I love those mom getaways. What you just mentioned, the cowgirl weekend, that is perfect, because we need some R&R and some activities too without the kids. I've yet to take one of those, but, sometime in the future. So I think it's really wonderful. I hope to come out and visit you soon, because the lodge, Flathead Lake Lodge, sounds amazing. I love that you cater to adults and children, and you have this Week of Hope coming up as you open your season. Chase Averill, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Tell everybody the website again, where they can go for more information.
Yeah, it's flatheadlakelodge.com. Thanks, Michelle, for having me. Appreciate it. And come visit us for sure. We'll be here. So.
All right. Well, I would love to. Thank you. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy. More coming up in a few.
Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson. Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
We're going from Montana to Florida, and especially me being in the Northeast, I love hearing about Florida destinations. And there are some areas of Florida that maybe you're not as familiar with, right? We know about Orlando, we know about the East Coast, Fort Lauderdale and Boynton Beach and Delray, but there are some real gems within Florida that if you just search a little deeper. And that's why we have with us today Casey Hart. She is the lead marketing consultant for Visit Sebring, where she manages and directs the destination's tourism marketing and advertising initiatives. She has more than 20 years experience in marketing, brand management, public relations, advertising, and issues management. And before opening her own communications firm called Gray Dog Communications in 2007, she worked for the Florida citrus industry as well as phosphate and turfgrass industries. Hi, Casey. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure. So tell me a little bit, because your background is very intriguing. So I do want to hear about Sebring, Florida, but you are also a published author.
I am. As you mentioned, I worked in the citrus industry for many years. And within probably about a 11-month period, I found myself fired from my job and divorced.
Oh,
so I
don't mean to laugh, but it always happens like that, right?
It does. But, everything happens for a reason. So I sat down and I made a list of the top 5 things I wanted to do, see, or accomplish before I died. Mm-hmm. And one of them was to write a book, one of them was to travel, and one of them was to have my own business. So I was able to merge all 3 into an endeavor that became the Girls Getaway Guide, because as I traveled with my girlfriends, we found that there were, travel for families, travel for gay and lesbians, there was all kinds of travel for all these different segments, but really no travel at this time, at the time I was doing this, for women that just wanted to go and find unique things to do in different destinations. So I wrote the book kind of as a bucket list thing. Barnes & Noble ended up calling and ran the book and said, we love this, we love the segment that you're targeting. We love that you're doing secondary markets, because we have a ton of books for travel to New York and Miami, but these Orlando, Nashville, Key West, people weren't really on people's radar.
Right.
So from there, I then became a travel correspondent for a nationally syndicated TV show, which was a total accident. I went on there to talk about my book, and they said, we don't have a travel correspondent. Would you like to do that? I'm like, sure. So
amazing.
So it all kind of opened a bunch of doors and had amazing opportunities, and ended up in Hollywood. We shot a pilot for a TV show. And everything happens for a reason. No matter what happens to you in life, there's a reason behind it.
I love it. Absolutely. Because I know sometimes it could seem really dark, and especially women, we've got a lot going on. We've got a lot to manage. If we have kids, that's another thing on top of everything else. And sometimes it's really hard to, we have all these ideas, but to really implement them. So you're very motivational.
Oh, well, thank you. And it's funny, my tagline on my books was "Leave your baggage be home," because like you said, we all have this baggage, no matter what it is. And sometimes we just need to get away and kind of leave it behind and, kind of decompress a little bit.
Exactly. Absolutely. So tell me, because you were raised in Sebring, so you know it really well. Tell me about Sebring, Florida.
Sure. So I love it here. As a kid growing up, I cannot think of a better place to be raised. We had a lot of freedom. My family owns a cattle ranch here, so I grew up, driving a stick shift Jeep with no doors at age 8, which, nowadays, now that I have a kid, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe my parents let me do that. But just had a very, very free childhood. Always had my dad's family is from South Florida, so we always had people come up, and they fell in love with it because it's so open, it's so vast. The kids got to run around and do things that they don't normally get to do. So I was very fortunate to have that as part of my childhood. And then once I moved away, went to college and all that, you kind of think, oh gosh, I'm never going back there. It's a small town. So Sebring has just been it was a really good place for me to grow up. And now, having a family of my own, it's a really great place in Florida. We're very conveniently located within a 2-hour drive to most major cities, but yet we still have that quieter pace here, not a bunch of traffic, our crime's lower, things like that. So we really value the destination as a family living here, but then also bringing people in to see the area, to see what old Florida used to look like before the development and before the urban population kind of influxed into Florida. It's really nice to see. People just think Florida's the beaches and Disney, and there's so much more to offer here.
Absolutely. Now, do you still, because I know in your bio it says that you have 1 son, 7 horses, 5 cats, and 9 dogs. Do you still own all of those pets?
We do. I did adjust the numbers before I sent it to you. We actually live on a ranch. We have about 100 head of cattle where we live. And so we have the horses that we actually use to move the cows and things like that. So, it's a farm. It's a full-on farm where we live.
That's amazing. But that's really nice. So that's another aspect of Florida that people may not think about when they're thinking Florida, and that you can get that as well.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't realize how many cows are actually raised in Florida, even though they're shipped out west. When they get older, a lot of the babies are born here, and we get the fun part. I tell everybody, we get the mommies and the babies, and we get to kind of see them grow up. So that's a fun part of being here as well.
Absolutely. So how do people get to Sebring? What's the easiest way to reach you?
Sure. So there's a lot of, like I mentioned, we're about a 2-hour drive from most major cities, Orlando, Tampa, probably about 2.5 hours to Palm Beach, 3 hours to Miami, 2.5 hours to Fort Myers. So there's a lot of, if you're flying in, there's a lot of those opportunities to fly into those airports. Mm-hmm. Personally, I used to live in Orlando, so I like the Orlando airport. It's also on the south side of town, so you don't have to drive through the town of Orlando to get here. And it's about an 1.5-hour drive. It's not bad at all. But we also have Amtrak. So some people from South Florida shoot up on Amtrak or, come down from the Northeast. And then also, people just kind of drive in. If they're driving into the state, it's really easy to get to. And kind of a lot of people have said it's a really nice drive. You go through orange groves and you see cattle ranches. So it kind of brings you into that nostalgic old Florida state of mind.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. And tell me a little bit about what Sebring has going on throughout the year, because you have the Sebring Soda Festival. What's that like?
So it's so much fun. We have a craft soda shop on our circle. Our downtown in Sebring is actually on a circle instead of a square, like a lot of cities. And we had a soda shop open, and the owner had this idea to have a soda festival. And it was in the works for a while, and we finally got it kicked off. This April will be our 3rd year. So it's pretty new, but it has generated so much buzz and so much excitement because the thing I love about it, it's very multi-generational. So you see the kids, they obviously love the sodas, and we have this really fun line of sodas called Avery's Totally Gross sodas. So the sodas are called like Bug Barf and Dog Drool and Kitty Piddle, which my son thinks is hilarious. I mean, they don't taste like that. Of course, they're real flavors, but the names are funny. And then, then you have your nostalgic brands like Moxie and Cheer Wine. And so then you see the grandparents are like, oh my gosh, we haven't seen this since we were a kid. This is so cool. So it's so much fun to see all the different generations of these families coming and connecting at this festival and having a really good time together.
That's great. I love festivals. I think they really bring out the character of a town and the character of the area. And so you also have the Sebring International Raceway, the Highlands Hammock State Park. Tell me about that state park, because it's one of the oldest ones in Florida.
It is. It's one of the oldest and one of the largest in Florida. It's about 9,000 acres. And when I say like what old Florida looks like, this is what old Florida looks like. There's swamplands, lots of different species of animals. It's ranked one of the highest as far as biodiversity in the state. People have said when they see it, it reminds them of Jurassic Park. Like that's what it looks like. But they have camping, they have bike rentals, they do a lot of concerts, they do nature hikes. They're looking to expand. I just met with them yesterday, and they have some really fun ideas of new activities. They do tram tours out there. You can, of course, camp, either primitive camping or RV camping. So there's a lot to do to keep you busy out there.
Terrific. And you also have a children's museum, which is perfect if you have little ones.
We do. It's right in our downtown, so just steps away from our circle. So a lot of people like to go there. The kids love it. My son, he's it's hard to get him to leave. There's a lot of interactive activities there. It's just a great thing for families to do while they're here and the kids to do. But you mentioned we also have Sebring International Raceway, which is the birthplace of endurance racing in North America. Oh. So the history of that track is really cool. It was an old World War II Air Force range that after the war, they kind of didn't really know what to do with it. Somebody from Sebring went to Europe and saw the road racing that they were doing there and brought the concept back to the United States. So that's why we're the birthplace of endurance racing. And the 3rd weekend in March is our big, huge event, big race, and it's the 12 Hours of Sebring, and they race for 12 hours straight.
My goodness. Well, the hotels must be booking up for that one because that's coming up in a few weeks. Is there still availability around town?
No. I just met with the hotels yesterday as well, and they said they're usually booked 2 years out for that, and there's a 7-night minimum for that event.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah. Well, that definitely introduces a lot of people to the area if they haven't been familiar with it before. When would you say is the best time to visit?
Oh, my gosh. I We have 100 freshwater lakes, so we get a lot of visitation in the summer. We have a lot of little lake resorts. So people, especially from the South Florida area, they kind of want to escape the crowds during the summer. They come up, and we have these great lakes where you can fish and do boating activities, skiing, jet skiing, your paddle boarding. A lot of the lakes have little white sandy beaches, which the kids obviously love because they get to do all the things that they do at a regular beach, but it's just a little bit more subdued. It's not as much activity going on. So there's really so many good times to come. Personally, April's great. April and May, the weather's really nice still. It gets a little hotter, obviously, into June, July, and August. But if you have one of those little lake resorts that you're staying at, that's not an issue. And then we also have really great things to do around the holidays. We have our whole circle lights up with the carousel of lights that families just love. We have a historic hotel called the Jacaranda that decorates. It goes all out for the whole for the holidays. And then we have events like Cookie Fest, which is great for kids. They get to make cookies with one of our local chefs and decorate them and take them home and write letters to Santa. So there's really no bad time of year to come. There's always something to do for everybody.
Right. That's great. And if somebody were to come for, say, a quick family weekend, what would be a sample itinerary that you would give them?
Oh, my goodness. Well, the great thing about the soda shop is that the soda shop's there all the time. So even if you don't come for the festival, which is the first weekend in April, you can still go and have the soda experience, which is fun. So I would definitely say when you're in downtown Sebring, you should do the soda shop in the Children's Museum.
Okay.
There's also a great restaurant downtown called Faded Bistro and Beer Garden. It's all fresco dining. It's within this garden setting. It's really nice. So definitely do those. You definitely have to go to Highlands Hammock State Park, whether you stay there, you just go out for the day and bike, or to go. They have a boardwalk that goes over a swamp. It's called the Cypress Swamp Trail. That's really cool, and you can see alligators. And that's a must-do as well. One of my favorites that we didn't even mention is Maxwell Groves, which is in Avon Park, which is just about a 10-minute drive from Sebring. But they have anything that you want citrus. Citrus salsa, citrus wines. You can actually go when the citrus is in season and bag your own citrus. And then they have probably the best thing you'll ever put in your mouth, which is this ice cream made with fresh squeezed orange juice. And it is amazing.
Oh, all right. I'm coming just for that. I'll be there.
Yeah. So
where can people
go? The Maxwell family.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. The Maxwell family own it, and Mr. Maxwell still comes by, so he tells stories about the citrus industry from years ago. So it's a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, that's great. I love learning history of these really cool places that are come across as mom and pop shops, but just have such a rich history behind them. So tell me, where can people go for more information on Sebring, Florida?
Sure. So our website is visitsebring.com, and you can find all the information there. You can even request a free travel guide, which we'll mail to you, or you can actually see the online version as well.
Great. Casey Hart, thank you so much for joining me today. I loved hearing about Sebring. That is an area of Florida that I have not yet been to, but very enticing, and I think I'm going to add it on to my next trip down there. Thank you so much. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy. So what did you get for Valentine's Day this year? What kind of gift? I bet it wasn't something with fur on it, because PETA has really been working so hard to just work with retailers and manufacturers to eliminate fur and leather and all kinds of products that are made with animal products. And today we have Dan Matthews. He is the Senior VP for the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals on the show. Hi, Dan. Thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So it's also Fashion Week recently, and you're usually very much known for the I'd rather go naked than wear fur campaign. But this year you decided not to go that route. Why is that?
Well, after 30 years and having the help of celebrities such as Pink and Gillian Anderson and Kim Basinger and male models and some male athletes as well declaring I'd rather go naked than wear fur, we've seen that fur has turned from a status symbol to a social liability. It's just really plummeted in popularity. And because PETA has so much other work to do, we decided to call the campaign a day after 3 decades, celebrate its success, and move on to more issues that don't get as much public attention, especially when it comes to leather and wool and exotic skins. People know that there's probably an animal probably didn't enjoy having its leather ripped away to make a pair of shoes or a belt, but they don't really know the process. One of the cases I personally worked on was at a slaughterhouse in Pennsylvania where we had a worker who worked on the skinning floor, who his job was to chop off the hooves and lips of cows so that their skin could be peeled back in the leather room. The problem was they were supposed to arrive around on the conveyor belt hanging by a hoof unconscious, but the machinery often didn't work. The people weren't trained properly using the stun guns, and he would often be chopping off one hoof while another hoof came around and kicked him in the head. His complaints to the slaughterhouse were ignored. They told him to get back to work, and they had a quota to fill. So he called PETA, and I went in with a few investigators to document this, and we filed charges against the state. And this was just one of many, many cases we've worked on to show that animals are literally viciously skinned alive in the leather trade, not just in China or India, but right here in the U.S. Mm-hmm. We've done similar investigations overseas to find similar horror stories. And when it comes to wool, people have the idea that you need to shear sheep. It's like getting a little haircut. But then when they see how it actually happens in the wool industry, they're sheared by a quota system, just like animals are killed in the slaughterhouse. And the sheep do not want to be shorn in many cases. So workers will kick them in the face, punch them in the eye, shear them so brutally that they leave bloody gashes that aren't treated at all by veterinarians. And it's gotten so bad that there have been numerous charges of cruelty from officials in Australia, in the UK, in Scotland. And this is just a handful of places that we've looked on. So our job now is to reach consumers with the fact that anytime animals are used in the clothing business, there's cruelty involved. And it's why PETA is supporting the many fabrics that literally don't bleed, things like cotton poly blends, there's jute, there's so many new fabrics as well as old fabrics that things like canvas have been woven into materials that are very, very fashionable and that keep people very warm. The mountain climbers don't use fur coats. They use Gore-Tex, which is a synthetic that's much warmer than any animal fabric out there. So for reasons of sustainability, for reasons of cruelty, PETA is going full speed ahead with our campaign to eliminate animals from fashion altogether.
That's terrific. So what are designers doing to appeal to these conscious consumers? And how can we as a consumer avoid supporting these cruel practices?
Well, it's interesting. Stella McCartney started her brand about 20 years ago with no fur and no leather, but she appealed to fashion fans at a very high price point. Now, many other high-end fashion brands have seen that she has no problem attracting business. There's a whole market for this. So many companies are using cruelty-free products. If you go to PETA's website, you can find out which designers do what. It's PETA.org, and you can find out which designers of all ends. There's a lot of great clothes that you can buy at places like Zara and at H&M, mass market brands that use a lot of animal-friendly materials. So it is getting a lot easier. It's something that, especially on the low end, low price points, you can find really good stuff. And it's changing. PETA's also supporting the upstart companies that are producing things like leather made out of mushrooms and out of pineapple leaves, and things don't go through the tanning process that is so toxic, and have really durable, easy to clean, stylish clothes.
I love that. Dan Matthews, thank you so much for joining me today. And it's really informative because I feel like it is more, even so much more than not to use animals in making products, but there's so much that has to do with the climate. And so I'm a big proponent of this. Thank you for getting into the realm of sustainability now too. Dan Matthews, Senior VP of People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy. Have a great rest of the day.